started planning a Demon Slayer video right about halfway through the airing of the third season. I figured it'd be worth my time to give my 2 cents on the newest release, plus maybe more people would see the video due to the, at the time, very relevant topic. That video will never get made, at least not in its original form, so I don't feel bad giving up the general outline. Let's just say that it wasn't going to be a very glowing review. I had fully intended to bemoan how Swordsmith Village sank Demon Slayer, a show I have defended from allegations of being mid for years at this point, down into mediocrity for a solid 20 minutes and then call it a day. Instead, I got distracted. Let's call it distracted. By other things. Oh, get your minds out of the gutter. I was talking about boobs. My attention shifted elsewhere, which is what this video is about. But hey, why not make it a double feature? What did I briefly think of Demon Slayer Season 3? Swordsmith Village is not a bad arc, and this is not a bad season of television. Put additional stress on that last part because there is basically nothing wrong with Ufotable's side of the equation. The animation is as quality as ever, the 3D compositing remains seamless, and the music is
so good.
There are several occasions where the production is so next level that it takes moments I liked from the manga and puts my jaw straight into the carpet for the adaptation. This entire ending sequence is completely original to the show, and I can barely comprehend that fact. It just feels so right. I mean, what would we do without it? The people who worked on this should be proud of what they've accomplished. What is lacking is the source material. Swordsmith Village is what I consider to be the worst of the series' major arcs in the manga. It's a weird case of biting off more than you can chew and then not swallowing enough for sustenance. There's more characters than ever, most of whom need to go through a character arc and have backstories, yet the plot is weirdly minimal. Once the two main fights start, they keep going on and on because they are the climaxes. There is no second act to be found here, which is usually where the bulk of character building is done. I guess you could argue that the Entertainment District was also like this in a way, with a peaceful first act and non-stop action following, but there were actual separate fights throughout that season. You know, with beginnings and endings and downtime for characters to, I don't know, fucking think. Plus, there was a clear escalation towards the climax and a change in direction signaling the highest point of intensity in the form of Gyotaro. Without those aspects, we're left with a story that can't allow its characters to truly develop due to being stuck in a never-ending slugfest, and chapter after chapter that feel identical. Entire episodes go by seemingly without anything significant happening, and it doesn't help that one of these two fights is not really up to snuff with the other. Gyoko sucks, and I hate him. I feel like this season will be way more enjoyable to re-watch on a binge than to consume weekly. That way, if you hit a bad episode, you don't have to wait 7 days to see if the next one's good. You just let it roll over, and it probably will be good, because there are plenty of things to like about this arc. Genya's backstory, how Tengu in his entirety, and Nezuko getting to be a full-fledged member of the team are just a few among many, and they all combine to make the bad parts more annoying than crippling. It's a step down, but a minor one, and I'm fully confident that the show will step back up for Season 4, since I actually like all of the remaining arcs. Anywho, there's the news. Until next time. What a fucking disaster. Something has been lingering on my mind, though, ever since the airing of a certain episode. An episode that I believe to be the perfect Demon Slayer episode. No, not the finale. We're not talking about the greatest Demon Slayer episode per se, which that one may very well be. I mean, hot damn, this goes harder than Prince Andrew guest starring on a Disney Channel show, but instead one that contains everything a Demon Slayer episode should be in perfect ratio. Season 3, Episode 10, Love Hashira, Mitsuri Kanroji. So today I'm setting out on a hopefully not so long journey to explain why, starting with the obvious part. Oh no! I've been writing this fight for ages, but it's too complex! I don't even know what's going on anymore! Well, no need to fear, because for only $49.99 a month plus tax, delivery fee, and a down payment of $300, you can receive the Demon Slayer's Guide to Keeping It Real. If you think your fight may be too complicated, just refer back to this handy-dandy flowchart. Does it have a head? No. Good job! Yes. Undo that. Did that work? Yes. Good job! No. Do it again! Just like French revolutionaries, the Demon Slayers have never met a problem that couldn't be solved by a guillotine. Wait, why would you buy the program if we show the whole thing in the commercial? Stop rolling! Shut down the cameras! Fuck! Demon Slayers fights are at their most fun to watch when the combat is simple yet flashy. Think about possibly the best fight in the series, Tengen Uzui versus Gyotaro. On this side of the ring, the Demon Slayer has 2 swords. And on this side, the demon has 2 swords that shoot swords out of his swords. These combatants are dead simple, but have just enough flair to keep you going. Tengen doesn't just have 2 swords, he has 2 badass swords with a chain. Because of that one little detail, he can do thus. And your next line is, "Oh, crazy taxi! Fuck that guy up! Fuck him up!" And then Gyotaro also has 2 swords to match, but his projectiles give him a range bonus, which place our protagonist, the Sound Hashira, solidly as the underdog.
The fact that those projectiles are made out of blood is also just kind of bonus points on the cool factor. And then they kiss. All of Demon Slayer's most fun characters and brawls can be broken down like this. The water-breathing style of Gyu and Tanjiro is basically just swords, but the flowing motions, speed, and consistently gorgeous water effects make it exciting every time. The sudden and explosive nature of thunder breathing adds a jolt of life to any situation. Hinokami Kagura bridges the gap between the two, taking both of their best traits to elevate itself to a level of hype beyond either of them. And beast breathing? Well, beast breathing is interesting. Inosuke has 2 swords, which is cool, and they're serrated. Nice. But this one is mostly carried by his wild man motions and the fact that he's the most fun character in the show to watch do literally anything, including rudimentary object permanence and language skills. The inverse of this concept is why someone like Muichiro is not very fun to watch fight. His mist effects are by far the least appealing that we've seen so far. I mean, mist on concept is meant to obscure vision, so I don't even know why you tried this. I mean, it's like trying to make lingerie chastity belts.
Why did you think you could do this?
Then there's his actual swordsmanship, which is super defensive and held back. I assume this is more realistic to real swordplay, which is cool in its own way, but that doesn't make it particularly entertaining to watch. The simple nature of combat is actually part of what makes Demon Slayer unique in a weird way. I know that sounds wrong, but give me a minute to explain why. In its contemporaries like Jujutsu Kaisen, Hunter x Hunter, Hunter x Hunter, or JoJo's, a fight is like an exponential regression. And then there's some exponents here and there, but also a derivative on the third term, there's parentheses, and there's sigmas all over the fucking place, and then they tack on an infinite series at the end just for good measure. A Demon Slayer fight is like 2 + 2, but the answer is always... Now, could I have demonstrated all of these principles with the character and fight that this video is actually about? Yeah, probably. But then I wouldn't have had an excuse to rewatch so many of these fights, so that's neither here nor there. Mitsuri's sword is basically a steel ribbon, which is fluid when she moves and solid when she doesn't, which makes no sense.
I'm a little lost, but fair enough.
You know, like, I have no fucking clue what you just said, but hell yeah, man, I'm gonna speak my truth.
You don't have to worry about it, though. It just works. Not in the same way that King Crimson just works, though.
You can't erase time! Fine, you can freeze time and you can turn back time, but you can't erase time! That doesn't make sense!
More in the way that it's so simple, you'd have to be an actual single-celled organism to not get it. Like, you'd have to be brain dead. She can swing it and go whoosh, woo, 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 clang, kapow, swish, shoo, phew, phew, clang, kapow, crack, crack, swish, swah. She can spin like a ballerina or do the 10-10 thing. She can whip it like Indy. She's got a tether grab and she can hit you with that down tilt into up air kill confirm. Except her sword isn't made out of her grandmother's bones or her own bones? Okay, not to get political, but what the fuck is Byleth? Like, they're themselves, but also their own mother at the same time, but their mother was also her own mother, and so on and so forth up the family tree, or family straight line, or whatever. It's like a family straight line with aberrations outside. Is that what aberration means? Anyway, so Byleth is their own mother, and Rhea's child, and grandchild, and great-grandchild. But they're also a reincarnation of Sothis, Rhea's mother, which makes them Rhea's mother and child, grandchild, and so on. But also you can fuck her. You can have sex with Rhea and breed and get married, and is that even incest anymore? Does incest work off the double negative system? Because then we just need to track Byleth's whole genealogy to see how many negatives there are, and oh my god, why? Stop it, Japan! What are you doing? Oh, that's right. I was trying to make this video shorter and easier to edit. And this guy has big bad dragons, and they're strong, and they can crush you or eat you, which also crushes you, and those drum things that Eneru wears are just there to make it a little cooler. He's badass. I know someone's gonna do the whole, it's Eno thing, but the official Viz Media translation on the Shonen Jump app of One Piece says Eneru, so...
Are you mentally unwell? Are you having an emotional breakdown right now?
This is just one of the best fights in all of Demon Slayer. It's flashy and exciting, but never goes too far by becoming a part-time job to watch, and the animation is just drop-dead gorgeous. I think the Hinokami Kagura, Mugen Train finale, and Tengen vs. Gyotaro may still be a bit better in that field, but at this point we're wading into trash versus garbage territory of arguments. Except the opposite of that, because these fights are good, and not like One Piece fights. Shade thrown. So maybe it should be like ribeye versus steak, unless you're vegan, because you wouldn't consider those good, so maybe we should just move on. What am I still doing in this paragraph? Yeah, this episode pulls you in on a monkey brain level, but that's only half the puzzle, and I'd argue it's the less important half. Everyone likes a good fight, but most people don't think much about how important the background is. Watching 2 drunk dickheads duke it out in front of a bar can be entertaining, but it won't stick to you like witnessing Alec Garrity from Homeroom and Kenny Locks from Intro to Biz run the ones in the cafeteria over Instagram insults. Because you know these people. You've seen Kenny blow up outlets with a paperclip. He put your name on the end of his PowerPoint when you forgot to make yours. That's your boy right there.
And you've heard Alec flaunt his 4.0 GPA. You've been subjected to his shit-ass acoustic guitar playing while he tries to stop his girlfriend from sitting on DeMarcus Johnson's lap again. He needs to get beaten to a pulp for his barking. Put that boy down. Old Yeller the fuck out of him. And now we have the core tenets of a compelling battle. There must be an understanding of both parties and a logical conflict between them. You don't get this without these. Of course, the fight can still suck if Alec and Kenny do nothing but aggressively almost have gay sex on the ground for 40 seconds. Mediocre choreography can be a problem, but proper build-up can usually carry the team as long as the weak points aren't distracting. Every great story has its own method for injecting those goods, and Demon Slayer cuts through the static to IV drip it straight into your veins. Flashbacks are the lifeblood of this story, the electrical surge that sets every facet of the system into motion. There are so many of them, in fact, that I've decided to give a name to Koyoharu Gotoge's writing strategy. I'm not going to pronounce that name right, like ever, just warning you. The Ness method. It's all about spam, baby. PK fire! Cut that. It's incredibly rare, maybe even unheard of, to receive any piece of information about a character without some reflection of the past. Love them or hate them, they're essential to Demon Slayer. And Mitsuri's got the gold medal. The first area of excellence is in pacing and placement. Demon Slayer flashbacks are usually not that long, but even so, some of them do manage to drag the series down. Not quite like One Piece, where every time someone joins the Straw Hats, it's just, no, don't leave me, don't leave me! But there are definitely occasions where you're enjoying a fight and would probably rather just keep enjoying it. Hey, guys, skip cutscene's broken. Kinda killing my speed run here. Guys? Whatever, game's bullshit anyways. Fucking RNG. This doesn't really ruin parts of the series, rather it just makes them mildly irritating on occasion. Not a problem here though, and the chosen format is no small part of that. Many of the flashbacks in this story are presented like life flashing before the character's eyes. The mind searching for an escape from death, as it's explained in-universe. But I don't really think they all nail that feeling. That's because most of them revolve around a single event or moment in the relevant character's life. Specifically the part with relation to the current series of events. This works functionally, but it feels kinda like divine intervention more than what it's supposed to be. Mitsuri is one of the few occasions where this concept is executed properly. I forgot until I was proofreading this script, but the chapter in the manga where this happens is quite literally called Mitsuri Kanroji's life passes before her eyes. So, tell me I'm wrong. Come on, just try it. Fight me. Fucking fight me, dude! It truly feels like the distillation of an entire life into mere moments due to the high number of scenes moving by at a rapid pace, which has a number of benefits. First, it's pretty hard to get bored when you're constantly seeing something new. Second, seeing Mitsuri essentially grow up throughout the episode makes her so much more endearing. You feel like you've known her for way longer than you actually have simply because you're given a little bit of every piece of her life, instead of just one moment. The pacing is just presentation, however, and wouldn't be worth much if the actual substance was underwhelming. So, take a guess, based on the video title, what do you think I think about the substance? Due to the sheer amount of characters who get a fleshed out past in this series, there was always going to be some element of overlap between them, but Gotoge definitely gets caught double dipping. Or triple dipping. Or, wait, did you just lick the salsa off the chip and put it back in? I have a happy childhood and am at peace. Uh-oh, someone lay important to me, they died. I am going to Demon Slayer. This series probably has more family massacres than Naruto and Game of Thrones combined, which is actually pretty impressive. In the same way that American crime statistics are impressive, but I mean, you know, it's still something. To Gotoge's credit, she finds quite a few angles of approach, but there's only so many times you can get sucked in by the same story. At a certain point, you just want to see something different, which is why I value unique backstories like Iguro's so much. Mitsuri is special even amidst that crowd though, since her life is the only one I wouldn't consider a tragedy. Her sense of justice isn't motivated by loss or revenge, but simply because she has power and wants to use it to protect people. The pain then comes from what's stopping her. A lot of people are under the impression that Demon Slayer is poorly written because it isn't a 4D double-decker Chinese checkers match, and sure, I'll give you that the writing is simple, but why must simplicity be a flaw? Where Demon Slayer excels most and where I think it's most underrated is in its ability to wrap up complicated emotions and societal issues in an accessible package. Domestic abuse is complex and confusing, but Rui's backstory presents it in a way that can be understood by absolutely anyone. I'd argue this is a core reason why Demon Slayer has taken over the world in the way that it has, and this episode leverages those same strengths. Except, we're not talking about abuse or poverty. No, enchanté. We're talking about women! Yep, this one's all about femininity and patriarchy and misogyny and a bunch of other fun buzzwords too that you can use at your local family barbecue. I happen to be an expert on women, so I'm clearly not out of my depth here at all. But you know who is? The writer of this article I found. I usually wouldn't write a video in this way at all, but debunking this Bam Smack Power Writer actually provides a pretty good framework for me to make my arguments and will help me get some pent-up anger out of my system. I'd say don't harass the writer and all that jazz, which, yeah, don't. It's an opinion, and we've all got bad ones, it's okay, but I don't think I've got a big enough platform to need to worry about that. Don't prove me wrong, though. Before we go into this, I seriously want to say, I mean no disrespect to the writer of this article, and I'm not trying to be hurtful. Anything I say that is a little hurtful is exaggerated for the purposes of comedy. This article just happens to portray an opinion that I heavily disagree with. There's nothing wrong with the writer, and there's nothing inherently wrong with the article. So, sorry. Anyway, let's hear some of the article's claims. 1. Her narrative is about how her unique traits make her unlovable. 2. The tragic element of the backstory is that her arranged marriage falls through. 3. Mitsuri only joined the Demon Slayer Corps to find a husband stronger than her, and doing so is the only way for her to become lovable. 4. The series claims that the only viable role for a woman is to get married and become a wife. 5.
Cool, slap me up, sis.
Mitsuri has no personal motivation for fighting demons. Quote the devil herself. Like, are you kidding me? I guess it does take talent to be this wrong. Like I said, joking, no disrespect. Point 1. They're almost right here. It's so close it's tragic. The narrative does show Mitsuri being considered unmarriageable due to her hair color, freakish strength, and appetite, but it also goes to great lengths to clarify that this way of thinking is wrong as fuck. The characters saying this are supposed to be wrong. You are not supposed to agree with them. In fact, they functionally act as a replacement for the absentee demons. They are the bad guys! Point 2. The tragic part of the backstory is not just that Mitsuri doesn't get married to Uryu here. The tragedy comes from the fact that Mitsuri is denied something she desires and deserves for no good reason due to bullshit societal standards. Kinda like how Marty McFly doesn't get to play at the dance because the judges and society at large are biased against his style of music. And this makes you sympathize with him because it isn't fair. What happens to Mitsuri isn't fair. She shouldn't be rejected just because she has traits that aren't considered traditionally attractive or feminine. She's getting screwed by male-created preconceptions of what a woman should be, and that's the tragedy. Point 3. And 4, and 5. They all kind of go together. Yeah, Mitsuri says that she became a demon slayer to find a strong husband, but this is pretty clearly portrayed as a joke. You know, a goof, a guffaw, a chortle, that other word that I'm not even going to try to say. A titter? I get it, these things are complicated. Even so, there is some truth to the statement clearly, because she is looking for a husband. And I guess I understand how you could come to the conclusion that Koyohara Gotoge believes women need to be chaperoned to a chapel with a shotgun on the day of their 18th birthday. You know, if you weren't paying any attention to the story. Keen viewers may notice also that Mitsuri joins the Corps for 2 reasons, not just one. The other being that she enjoys being strong and wants to use the gift that is her physical prowess to help others. It doesn't matter that this desire doesn't come from a place of death and loss like everyone else. It still exists, and I honestly think she's a stronger character for it. The thing stopping her, and the real reason she needs to become a demon slayer, is... Point 4. The only viable role for a woman is to get married and become a wife. Well, yeah, that's what the societal standard was at the time, and something that a good amount of people still believe today, and that's what the episode is trying to... Oh, wait. No. Do you think the show is supporting this idea? Really? Oh no. The whole point of this backstory is to demonstrate how women are capable of whatever they desire in life and should be allowed to pursue that. In Mitsuri's case, she wants to be a wife, but she also wants to be a swordswoman, which would be like her wanting to have a family and a successful career in the modern day. Something men have been allowed to do for centuries, yet is still seen by many as beyond the capacity of women for some stupid fucking eldritch reason beyond any comprehension. Nobody is saying she has to get married to be a real woman or that's the only role for her in life. What is being said is that she wants to, and that should be accepted alongside her other choices. This episode's literally a feminist talking point. Why are we mad? Okay, maybe I'm the only one who's mad. Okay, I'm done arguing with this article. Here's the real reason why this backstory is so amazing. It's able to give a progressive message about female empowerment and individuality, which is unique to the rest of the show, while still remaining relatable to a wider audience. Even if you don't understand how it feels to be restricted by a patriarchal society or the male idea of femininity, like myself, as far as you know, almost everyone has some aspect of their personality that doesn't conform to the expectations of society. The message being sent is that you aren't wrong if people don't accept you. You're just not with the right people. Mitsuri is a warrior and a wife at heart. She wants to and is capable of being both, but the rules of her world only allow her one. Even her loving family don't fully understand her, which is why she has to leave them all to find her own people. And the Demon Slayer Corps are those people because they accept both sides of her. It's likely the only place in her time where she'll find what she's looking for. I don't think E-Girl's gonna complain if she wants to be his wife and also still kill people. In fact, I think he finds it hot, and, yeah. I happen to think that that's a very beautiful message, as well as something to live by. Follow the lead of the love Hashira. Get out there and find the people who will stick up for every part of you. I was probably a bit too mean to this person just expressing their personal feelings towards a piece of art. Seriously, no hard feelings here. We were having fun before, right? Let's go back to that. Oh god, this is so fun! So the episode is crafted to mathematical perfection. Cool. Are we done here? No! How can we be done when I haven't even made my final argument? Sit down. This episode is perfect, but it has one crucial flaw. It's in the wrong spot, and I believe it has the potential to accomplish so much more with one simple trick. Despite being the most popular anime on the planet, it can be surprisingly hard to get people into Demon Slayer because those first few arcs are honestly not all that good. I've seen many a person bounce off the show around Kidnapper's Bog or Asakusa and say, wow, this really is D-Mid Slayer, when it's actually DA-Mid Slayer! In the script, I put in parentheses, funny. And they just hadn't gotten to the good part yet. You can promise it gets great all you want, but words are wind. Actions are what they'll remember in the end. So what I'm suggesting here is that you introduce Demon Slayer in the same way as JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. I don't think you should tell newcomers to skip Phantom Blood if it bores them, but you also shouldn't use the
"You're 7 years old, David. Stop acting like a baby."
A little kickstart caffeine shot of some good JoJos is often all it takes to get them on board, as knowing what kind of story is coming and whether or not they like that will help them power through. And there is no better caffeine injection for Demon Slayer than Mitsuri Kanroji. It may initially make sense to use other parts of the show for this purpose, such as the first Hinokami Kagura or Rengoku vs. Akaza. After all, I do think these are better episodes, but they lack the important quality of being relatively self-contained. The goal of using this method is to make your victim's brain light up on both the
Goopy Goblin gamer brain
and of which these fights can do only one. Hinokami requires an understanding of and investment in Tanjiro's relationship with Nezuko, as well as kind of Rui's whole deal, for it to hit like it really should. Those ideas were developed for the entirety of the first season, so that's pretty much a given if you watched it, but this episode doesn't put in any of its own legwork to show you why you should care about the conflict or the characters. That isn't criticism per se, because why would it? It doesn't have to. But that also means it isn't a good contender for what we're looking for. The same is true of Rengoku vs. Akaza and Tengen vs. Gyotaro, because all of them are climaxes, and good ones at that, but they rely too heavily on the build-up that came prior to be enjoyed thoroughly on their own. Plus, being the culmination of an entire arc, they're all really better off seen with virgin eyes. These episodes are the most impressive spectacles Demon Slayer has to offer, and the impact they're meant to have will inevitably be diminished through precognizance. That's not to say you can't enjoy a story well enough if you know what is going to happen. The practice of in medias res proves that there is a certain thrill to seeing a crucial event and then unraveling what led up to it. The structure allows storytellers to put their most compelling foot forward as a plot hook in cases where the actual beginning may not be pulling its weight. Sound familiar? But even then, this technique is usually employed by showing a glimpse of the very beginning of the climax. That way there's room left for the audience to explore on both sides of the sneak peek. The unknown is the most interesting part of any narrative, and in medias res should be a tool to nudge you towards the void, not to fill it entirely. Love Hashira Mitsuri Kanroji is the perfect makeshift in medias res thanks to its nature as a penultimate episode and Demon Slayer's flashback structure. Since it precedes a climax instead of being one, a new viewer will be left wanting to know where things go next, but they'll also be deprived of the perfect amount of context to leave plenty of the season's earlier mysteries unsolved. The episode doesn't explain Hatengu's powers and their specific mechanics, which came before, his thematic purpose and backstory, which come after, or anything about all the characters featured in the B-plot, who aren't even in this episode, so plenty of drama is left in place for when they get here for real. The only thing that is explained is Mitsuri, which gives it an emotional core without giving major spoilers in the lead-up, due to this being the first time we as an audience really get to learn who she is. It's her extended introduction. No prerequisites are required or invalidated. So if you got a bitch-ass friend who won't watch Demon Slayer with you, hit their shin with a baseball bat, tie them up, and subject them to the 47th plus 1 feature-length runtime episode. The perfect Demon Slayer episode. Or, just ask them to. You probably shouldn't do that to your friends, especially if you want something from them. Alright, time to wrap this up like a last-minute high school essay. In conclusion, this video was a 20-minute long excuse for me to tell you that it's okay to skip JoJo parts. Until next time.